What up, racer? ItsJerone here, and welcome back to another F1 2021 League Racing video. Today we're here for FRL China, and before starting this video I need to explain a couple of things. First of all, the Friday afternoon before the race I went with a few of my university mates to a drink, so I wasn't exactly sober at the time of driving, which is of course not optimal. And quickly looking at standings, of course, Namsko's out of this championship, so there are quite a lot of other drivers in contention. And secondly, there was quite some chaos in the first race, which we'll cut to now.
What? Safety cars? What?
What's going? Oh my!
It's not
Illegal overtake. No! No! This is glitched. This is glitched.
What the fuck?
No!
Overtake me. Overtake me.
No!
Otapa, overtake me! Back.
I can't be. I've got illegal overtake. No! No!
Illegal overtake, what?
What are you thinking?
So of course we had to restart after that safety car glitch. And I think we're only with 12 or 13 people now. And for the first qualifying I did a horrible shot at getting P11, qualified P14 there. And started the previous race on hard tires, which means I now also have to start on hard tires. Essentially, this was the second race we were about to do. In the previous race I spun on lap 3, and then lap 4 safety car was called out, so overall I didn't really mind getting this restart, as we're not doing a formation lap now, and immediately the 5 red lights are coming on, and we're getting underway for the second FRL race. And I get quite a good start off the line on my hard tires. Of course, planning to go long, do a one stop in this race, heading into turn 1, and there's just a massive pile-up of cars. I think in front of the Red Bull of Zach there was already a little incident, then Zach had to brake harder, then the Williams in front of me had to brake harder, I had to brake harder, and I think a lot of people have damage. As I sort of in a horrible situation right now, I sort of want to let people pass because I have massive wind damage, but also a bit pinched into this apex. Unfortunately, everyone was able to pass me here, which is good because I don't want to cause any more incidents and ruin more people's races, as now I'm leaving the apex completely open as CPI Otapa completely runs into the back of me. So even when you're trying to get out of the way, it sometimes doesn't really work, as we're cutting to a replay shot. And yeah, you can just see everyone was braking quite heavily at a point where you're usually not braking yet, and overall that led to quite a lot of people getting damage. As you will see, it will be quite busy in the pit lane in a few moments, and here's this moment again when we're sort of heading 3 wide into this turn, and yeah, I just stopped on the apex because I wanted to let everyone pass. And indeed, coming onto the pit lane now, and you can just see on the minimap so many people are in the pit lane, and that means that I think the top 7 kind of got away cleanly, not the top 6 rather, as Terror is also in the pit lane. So the top 6 in this race got away cleanly, whereas I think everyone behind had damage. And that means I will switch to a set of mediums now, and probably I will have to make another pit stop due to tire wear, as we're now cutting onto lap 3. And as I said, I wasn't exactly sober, so my concentration wasn't optimal, especially at the start of this race. And here I just messed up my braking a bit, and I didn't want to rejoin in an unsafe manner, so I decided to let Otapa go for now and just follow in the DRS. And I can confirm now, during this race I had a really interesting battle with Otapa, and yeah, you will see that in the upcoming moments. But of course trying to get into a bit of a rhythm now, which is of course more difficult when you're not completely sober. And yeah, at this stage you can see I was still making so many mistakes. Yeah, don't drink and drive, kids. I guess that's the main conclusion of this video. Just don't do it. It really affects your concentration and your ability to drive properly, as we already have first retirement. And one thing I noticed that with my setup I was especially strong in Sector 1. I really gained a lot of time on Otapa, but he was overall a bit faster in the middle sector, as we're now getting onto lap 4, and you can see confidence definitely wasn't quite there. Last thing I wanted was more spins, so I was just trying to keep it clean. But the DRS detection zone here is right at the start of this right-hander, and as you could see, for a little brief moment I was outside of that 1 second window, so I didn't get DRS on that straight. And also here, this right-hander leading onto the back straight, I was struggling a lot with this right-hander. It seemed like Otapa got a lot better exit speed coming onto that back straight every single time, so that was a bit annoying. Then I did gain some time back in other places of the lap. Also, coming out of that hairpin, I was oversteering quite a bit, and you can see we're already having first pit stop Terror Racer coming in, and he's rejoining here right in front of me, as over the previous laps I was catching Otapa a little bit, but like 1 or 2 tenths a lap. And once again here, heading onto this main straight, right at the detection zone for the DRS, I think for this one I was just inside, so this time it's still good. Yeah, indeed, I do have DRS, but then I wasn't really happy with Terror joining right in between us, because over the last 5 laps I had been working to get back into Otapa's DRS zone, as once again a little oversteer moment, and you can just see on the next straight Otapa is now once again about 1.3, 1.2 seconds ahead, but crucially he gets DRS from Terror Racer, which is not optimal, because you can just see on the delta on the top left, he will just pull away significantly with this DRS. Something to note as well is that once I kind of got into a rhythm, and the longer the race continued, the more sober I got basically, and I think you can really tell that the quality of driving increased during this race. So it's, you know, just a bit of a psychological experiment here, see what happens. Then lap 14 I wasn't gonna make it on tire wear until the end of the race. I had about a 1.5 seconds gap heading into the pit lane to Otapa, and yeah, I think the theme of this race was a straight up 1v1 against Otapa for what's currently P9 in this race, if there are no further retirements. So we're cutting onto the next lap now, as I went for the undercut strategy to try and close the gap again to Otapa. So let's see, where is he going to come out? It's sort of a similar story as with Terror, going out of the pit lane and going side by side through this S section, and I couldn't quite make it stick. I didn't have the tire grip there to make the overtake on Otapa immediately, but more importantly, we're now right on the back of him again and within the DRS zone. So that's of course what I wanted to achieve with this undercut. Ideally I wanted to get ahead of him, but it didn't quite work. Then 2 laps later, this sector of track, sector 2, that's where I was struggling the most, and then heading into this little left-right chicane leading onto the main straight. That's also where I was struggling. This time I really made quite a significant mistake, and once again I lost about a second here. So that is not very optimal, as we're now doing a little time lapse, because you can see the quality of my driving was increasing quite a bit, and overall I was just eating back into the gap to Otapa a little bit every single lap, and I think my tire wear was also better than his. So as the laps continued, I managed to close the gap every single lap. Bit of a shame that I made that mistake, because it was quite tough to get back into the DRS zone. And if I hadn't made that mistake, I probably could have saved a lot more ERS. So we're nearing the end of the race already now. And you can see currently Gogeta is 10 seconds ahead with Otapa making a bit of a mistake here. And that essentially allows me to get back into DRS range. I don't get it for this straight, but I did get it for start-finish straight. And from this point onwards I wanted to save my battery charge, as now yellow flags, and look there on the left hand side, that is Gogeta with a mistake. And suddenly my 1v1 with Otapa changed into a 1v1 for P8 and P9 rather than P9 and P10. And as you can see, yellow flags will pop up again, and I think Gogeta lost it on his overheated tires. So he's not a factor anymore in this race, and me and Otapa can continue our 1v1. As you can see now, I'm currently on about 40% battery charge, and at this stage I was just thinking, save as much energy as possible and completely drain the battery on the back straight, either this lap or the next lap. And we'll stay on board for this lap because I didn't even show you a full lap of Shanghai during this video, so let's just do it here. As you could tell, through sector 1 I was quite strong relative to Gogeta, and I could get quite close through that snail section. Then braking for this right-hander, you don't want to touch that inside curb because there's a bit of a weird bump there. Then trying to stay as close now, as close as possible through the middle sector, and also don't touch that inside curb because it can spin you round. Then the corner I'm struggling with the most around this track, this double apex left-hander, and I managed to stay within 4.5 tenths heading into the braking zone for this left-right. Then heading onto the back straight. Of course, we're both trying to get good traction, but you can see Otapa made a bit of a mistake there, which means I'm really close behind. So this is of course the opportunity to drain the ERS, and sticking into the slipstream, opening DRS and using a little bit more ERS to get ahead into the braking zone, leaving a bit of space on the inside. But of course with that tighter apex or tighter line Otapa had to take, there was no way he was gonna make some sort of switchback work there, and managed to go clean round the outside. So we're leading for this final lap of the race, and obviously there's one more place where I will have to make sure I get a good exit, and that is right here. So let's see if I can get one, as I think Otapa once again little bit of a mistake behind, as we're now weaving on the straight to break the DRS. Of course gonna expel the full battery because he's closing in to within 2 tenths, and I'm defending the middle of the track, hitting the apex nicely. Then get on the power, make sure you're not too eager on the power because you will spin out. And spinning out, that's exactly what Otapa does in an ultimate attempt to try and gain a lot of overspeed on me and get a run onto the line, but it didn't really work for him. In the end, finished P8 in this race, and I must say I really enjoyed this battle with Otapa. Even though I wasn't completely sober, it was still a good battle, and most likely I won't drink ahead of next race and for the next couple of races. I'm sure it wasn't exactly as enjoyable as usual to watch someone not on top of their ultimate level, but still I do hope you sort of enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you for the next one. See ya.